Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 2 with Chatting with CJ. How are you doing, CJ?
I'm doing really well today.
First off, we want to thank everyone for checking out episode 1. We want you to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to this monumental journey that we're on together. CJ is my mom. I'm Jamal Jackson. I'm recording her. And this week was my mom's birthday week. Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you so much. It was a really great week.
So we celebrated yesterday with family and friends, and it was amazing. Please tell people why this birthday was especially special to you.
This birthday was especially special to me because I almost died. I had aneurysm, and I was in the hospital for 5 months between the hospital and rehabilitation. I was in the hospital for almost 5 months. The whole summer I was in the hospital. And this year has been a wonderful blessing to me because God has given me a second chance. I had things coming out of my head which I didn't even know, and I didn't want to see because I didn't want that impression to be stuck in my mind. So all up until this year, I have been, when my birthday would come, I kept my age a secret. But I'm so happy to be alive and to say that this year was my 76th birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom. It's such a blessing to have you here and to celebrate with you. In this episode, we wanted to highlight specifically dealing with your age group and the success that you had in the treatment with the aneurysm. We wanted to kind of focus in on and talk about some of the things that led to the good outcomes, because initially when you went into the hospital at Mercy, you don't remember this because you were unconscious, but when I cried and cried to the nurse at the emergency room in Mercy, they said that your outcome wasn't good, that you were going to pass away, but they didn't know CJ. So I wanted you to talk about, because we talked about before I pressed record, about your discipline, your health, and your exercise. I want you to get more involved in that and talk about, secondly, and I'm going to circle back in case we forget anything, talk about your career and the makeup of you. So you have the floor.
When I was younger, I was very disciplined with my diet. I fasted. I was a vegetarian. I raised my sons when they were infants. I nursed them, and after finishing nursing, I made their food, and I made sure that they didn't eat any junk because I wasn't eating junk. I wanted us to have a healthy body and healthy mind. So those were some of the things that I did to strengthen myself. And I think that because of what I had, the life that I lived with my diet and exercising prior to having an aneurysm, I think that was a major factor in helping me to be able to come through as I did, because I didn't know that I was as sick as I was. It wasn't until after I was in rehab and I was talking to Jamal, and he told me that they had tubes hanging out of my head, and I was glad nobody took pictures of it because I didn't want that impression to stay in my mind. So, and I've been to the doctors, and they really have been amazed at how well I have been doing.
So what I hope with this podcast is to reach people who not may have had an aneurysm, but may have been in a situation where they had to climb out of. We want this podcast to be something of a motivation piece to let you know that it can be done. We also, in talking to CJ, because she is my mom, and I had the pleasure of, firsthand experiencing eating Life cereal with apple juice when I was a child and having a loving household. We want to really dive into, what makes her, because I saw, and the doctor, she is correct, in the hospital, they were just blown away. Not only blown away, they were very impressed. Well, that's the same thing. Impressed with her ability in recuperation. She beat expectations. And that's the moral to the story, is nobody can put you in a box. Nobody can. They don't know CJ. They don't know her makeup. They don't know where she came from. They don't know, I know some, because she's been mom. I've known her all my life. I've seen her triumph. I've seen her have setbacks, but she's never given up, and actually has passed her love on to many. So, Mom, talk a little bit about your career path, briefly, because it's non-traditional.
Most of my work career has been in the area of non-traditional jobs for women. When I graduated college, I got a job at International Harvester, which was a distribution center for parts for tractors, for farm equipment, and it was funny because I went into the management training program, and when I finished, after my 6 months training period was up, and they told me that I was now a manager, I cried because I didn't really want to be there. And but I stayed for 5 years working, and it was really I was the only female at the warehouse. It was very rewarding because the men who worked for me actually helped me to make my day and to help me to work those 5 years at International Harvester. Working at International Harvester enabled me to get a job with Bell Atlantic, which was a CMP telephone company.
So this is before Verizon. It was Bell Atlantic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had worked in the field for a non-traditional area for women, and I got a job at Bell Atlantic, I was hired as a cable splicing supervisor. I was the only female cable splicing supervisor in the district, and the district was pretty big. So it was challenging. They usually didn't hire from outside, so I had a crew of 13 men, and I had to learn how to splice cable, climb poles, test for the manhole for different chemicals. Anyway, it proved to be really well. At first, the men that worked for me really did not want me to get the job, because usually they promote Bell Atlantic, promoted from within. So that meant that somebody in my crew was supposed to get the job, but because they hired me from outside, I got the job, and I had to stay in training for over a year because I had to learn everything. I had to learn about electricity. I had to learn how to splice the cable, climb the pole. So I had to learn all of everything that went with the cable splicing job.
Fantastic, Mom. And then we're going to talk about when you moved to Virginia, because you took a what did you do with CMP?
I took a buyout, and I wanted to start my own business. So they were offering, I had worked for Bell Atlantic for 14 years, and they offered, this was during the time that they were
merging. So I remember, let me fill in the gaps of what I remember, and you tell me if I was right. So they were offering a buyout, or you would move to Philly, right?
Right.
Or you would have to move to Philly. So during this time, I remember I was like a senior in high school, or 11th or 12th, 12th grade in high school. So you didn't want to move to Philly, you know, because you had Jason, who's my younger brother. You didn't want to do that uproot and move to Philly, which I can understand. So you took the buyout, right?
I did.
And then you moved to Virginia, right, to start your business.
And I opened up a clothing store in Virginia.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a very country.
Yeah.
It was in the town of McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even have a traffic light.
Mm-hmm.
They had a blinking light for people to stop.
Mm-hmm.
It was a challenge because I thought I had nice clothes. I thought that, you know, people would just come. There weren't, the closest store was in Petersburg, which was like about 30 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened up, it was called C's Fashion Boutique, and I opened it, and it didn't do as well as I thought it would do.
Mm-hmm.
Because
location,
and you would think that being in a country, people would be very friendly, but they were familiar, but they weren't friendly. It was very family oriented, and if you're outsider, it really was hard.
So what I remember, I remember it being your clothing store. I think now, let's paint the picture to the audience. So this is in the 90s. So this is before the internet. This is before social media. So you have to realize during this time, you had very nice clothes, right? You had very nice clothes, very unique clothes, but there's really no way to spread the message. And if you had people in a rural location who you bring high fashion to them, I think you were ahead of your time. You were ahead of your time. Too. And with that setback, I know it was some financial setbacks, right?
Yes.
It was some tough times. But the moral to the story is you never gave up.
Never gave up.
So during that time, like, you were on social services, right?
Yes, and I had Jason, and
Jason is my younger brother, Jason.
And things were financially not so good. So yes, I was on social services, and I got a job.
Yes, you did.
I started selling furniture.
Absolutely. And then you went to school, didn't you?
I went to school and got my master's
at Virginia State.
At Virginia State, I got my master's in agency counseling.
So the moral to the story is you never gave up. You reinvented yourself.
Yes.
You saw the silver lining. You adapted. You made friends who are lifelong friends.
Yes.
Petersburg, McKinney, Colonial Heights, Dinwiddie are truly, because I went to Virginia State, and to be honest, I didn't go down there. I was ahead of my time. I wasn't successful, but I made good friends. I ended up working at Capital One, being successful there, and so forth and so on. But that's not my story. the story is, Mom, you never gave up. And that's one thing that I remember burning in my mind, is like, you reinvented yourself. Even though tough times, you didn't break.
Right.
And there's times you could have broke. And me growing up and understanding who I was, I know I wasn't the most supportive person sometimes, and my attitude, my brother's attitude, and things weren't looking good. But
I was the only person who wanted to be there. Jason definitely didn't want to be in Virginia.
But thankfully he did go, because originally there was another guy that went down there and moved with him, Devon, who returned back to Baltimore and got killed.
Yes.
And Jason and him were, you know, that guilt, survivor's guilt with Jason you had to deal with. So Mom, so we're gonna circle back to Virginia State and all of that, because we're gonna bring it fast forward to right now.
I want to say,
go ahead, please.
That my main reason for doing the podcast is to let people know that you're not the only one going through what you're going through, or you've been through what you're going through. Because when I had the aneurysm and I lost my job, this job at Marion House, I had been working at Marion House for 10 years, and I was the person who kept the occupancy up. I was in the hospital from
May 15th to September 6th, you were in different stages of the hospital.
So that meant that there was no one to really keep the occupancy, to fill the beds, to
keep the program going.
So they hired somebody to do that, which I totally understood. I couldn't do it, you know. But I just want people to understand that hard times come, and we have to be survivors and make things happen and work for us. When I lost my job, I was still in the hospital.
And I remember when the news was broken to you, you cried.
Right, because you in the hospital, and I wasn't prepared for this life that I'm living right now. And it's just devastating. It could be really devastating to anybody. But I just want people to understand that life goes on, and I'm making it. What I found out was, I drew a Social Security, but my Social Security is too much for me to be able to get other benefits. I took my pension and invested it in my business in Virginia, so I don't have a pension. All I have right now is my Social Security, which is not that much, but it's too much for me to be able to get any kind of extra help. I want to be able to help others to move through where I'm going through.
You want to create a network. You want to create solutions, and that's what you're the tip of the spear, Mom, because you just gone through this.
Yes.
And this is the age of information. That's what I say. So if you can provide the information and be sort of an easier path for others to navigate and follow your lead, you can. It's a silver lining here, and that's why me as your son, and again to the subscribers, we appreciate you. That's why we wanted to do this, because actually in the past I talked to my mom about doing a podcast, and she was always too busy. So some things happen to slow you down, and you just take another step back to step forward. That's the nature of life, and we're going to be successful. You're going to be successful, Mom.
Yeah.
So we are 20 minutes in.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna close out on what, Mom?
I want to just ask you to please share the podcast so that other people will be able to benefit from what I'm going through and what you going through. Some maybe you have gone through, but I just want to be able to inspire and help others.
So everyone, we thank you. This is Chatting with CJ episode 2. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to post this on YouTube extra fast. We're going to create a Facebook page for her. We're going to create a website for her. We're going to create all social media platforms with Chatting with CJ. So stay tuned. And we thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye.